Hi, Val. Welcome to Things That
Hello.
Die. I'm so excited. Well, this is
Thank you
technically
for having
round
me.
two.
Yeah.
It's technically round two. Val and I recorded a round one, and I ended up having the most insane thunderstorm, which wiped out our whole connection, and yeah, and it basically messed up the audio. So we're going for round two. You're gonna get some ultra gems in this round two with this conversation with Val.
Yeah, 100%. I can't believe that happened, but everything happens for a reason, so.
Right, exactly. Everything happens for a reason. Um, Val, where do we start? You are a sexologist. You are a tantra practitioner. You have been on this kind of wild, insane death, rebirth journey yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, how does it feel to embody this true calling of yours? Because you've been dabbling in all of this for a while, but now it's yeah, it's this is Bal and this is what she does.
Yeah, all in about sex. It was interesting. Like, I've been on this journey of talking about sexual energy, and there was this other side of me. I do Akashic record readings and do a lot of spiritual work as well, and wanting to really bridge the two. And I find that talking about our genitals, literally talking about our genitals, gets avoided a lot when it comes to our growth, our self development, spirituality, and sometimes it can be bypassed a lot. And I noticed with a lot of people that I worked with that they weren't actually shifting because there's this piece that they really needed to meet, and that was their sexual energy. And that also meant their whole being, like their sexual identity as well. So for myself personally, that was a journey as well where I needed to unravel and let go of my old identity, and went through this death and rebirth of talking about sexual energy and embodying it more so, um, and not feeling shameful about it, not feeling guilty about it as well, and seeing it as the purest thing, because we've been so programmed, whether it's through society, through religion, through culture. It can be transgenerational programming too, of what sex really means, and we, like as a collective, hold many misconceptions about what sexual energy really is. And I truly feel like the old misconceptions are really dying, and we come from sex, right? So why not talk about it? And it doesn't make sense to come from sex but then not talk about sex. Something that's so innate in us, and there could be a lot of controversy around it as well. So I feel like everyone is learning how to talk about it in a healthy way, and that's empowering versus disempowering, and not feeling embarrassed about it. So yeah, there's just been a lot of um, men, women, just really ready to face it, and they know they've been avoiding it, and they know that it's completely directed with your purpose. It's connected with your purpose, right? And your gifts. But if you're not connecting with your sexual energy, you're going to notice that your energy stays stagnant, whatever it is that you're doing in life. So yeah.
Yeah, wow. So if someone's listening to this for the first time, they're like, whoa, my sexual energy is connected to my creative gifts. It's connected to your purpose. It's connected to who you are and what you're about on the planet. I bet some people are mind blown that there is a connection between that. how does that like, how does that show up? If someone, are you finding clients then who are coming to you specifically because they feel lost creatively or lost in purpose or lost in relationship, and they're seeing that if they look at their own sexual energy, that they then begin to feel like the energy then flows into all areas of their life? Is that how it kind of works?
Yeah, a lot of them actually come to feeling like they don't have a purpose, like, or they don't have a sense of creativity. Like, they're just kind of like, I don't know what my gifts are. And there's, embedded in that, there's doubt. They're the fact that they're probably not in their body. There are many factors. So for each individual, I look at, okay, well, what's the reason behind with them not being in their body, and how disconnected are they from their sexual energy? At times they don't even realize that that's what it is. Because there's a loop. It's like a feedback loop. They just keep repeating patterns over and over and over again, and they don't know why. If they keep trying to do A, B, and C, the outcomes aren't happening for them. And so I always look at, okay, if something's not going right in the business, what's going on in the bedroom? We say whatever happens in the bedroom happens in business, right? So
Power
if we're not
dynamics to the
connecting with
max.
ourselves, yeah, yeah, right? We don't think about that, but it's
No.
true. Like, and with your partner or by yourself, right? If you're not connecting with yourself, just like on a daily or weekly basis as well, then how does that reflect within your business and just how you show up in the world? So, for example, for me, I come from a very strict East Indian upbringing, and it was funny. I was part of this call last night with a group of Indian women, and it was so funny because there was a resistance to really connect to themselves, and the whole theme was around like visibility and feeling visible, like really wanting to be seen. And I was like, well, how did it feel to like put a mirror down there? We did like yoni, well, they, for their play work, they did yoni gazing. And there was a lot of resistance. And I said, well, how often do you resist just in general looking at yourself in the mirror and just being seen? And they're like, oh yeah, all the time. So we treat our genitals like as a separate, I call it like the side dish versus the main dish, when it actually should be like the main dish that we need to look at, because there's so much wisdom and gems, like just so much wisdom and so much truth that is stored in there. But because we've been taught that it's just like a separate entity, where we just bleed and off we go and get pregnant or whatever. And for men, like there are for their functions as well, but then not realizing the power of their sexual energy and how to harness that and direct it in a way that actually serve their highest good. Because when we disconnect from that, what happens is that we misdirect our sexual energy, and that misdirection goes to people pleasing. We can go into fight or flight mode. Sometimes trauma responses can kick up, and then it just puts you in a really deep cycle. So with clients, everyone's so different, but I look at how are they misdirecting their sexual energy, and then I pinpoint how that reflects to them showing up in their life, and they were like, oh, I didn't even think about that. And then from there they're able to shift. Yeah,
That's huge. And it's like the death of the knowledge, like this knowledge, this wisdom that is so old and so innate, that has been like pushed aside, where it's been about there hasn't been that intimacy with ourselves. Again, it's like there's a disconnect. It's funny, it's like we've become a sex obsessed society in many ways, but actually the true essence of what sexual energy is about, and the wisdom and the knowledge and the energetics behind it, have been forgotten, and there's been a death of it. And it does feel, hey, I don't know, it does feel like there's a resurgence where people are beginning to see that flow and that connection.
Yeah, and it's so fascinating to, like witness just in general with what's happening in the world today around sexual identity. And I truly feel that when we go within and connect with our own sexual energy and actually heal our sexual energy, like really de-armor our genitals, like really de-armor and look at our own sexual shadows as well, then we're able to embody who we really are, versus outsourcing who do we think we are, right? And so you notice like there's just such a battle around sexual, and it's just fascinating because I'm just an observation, and it can be so black and white as well. So I really feel like what's actually going to create world peace, to be honest, is if we actually heal our sexual energy, because it has been weaponized in so many ways for so many years, because it's the most powerful thing that exists within us, right? So why not repress it so that, there's control, manipulation, whatever. And I truly feel like the death is that we're, in each and every one of us, there is this ego death of, well, what is my sexual energy used for? How do I define that? How do I translate that into my gifts versus using that into a fight or flight mode, or using that into, the fawning and collapse mode where I'm just freeze and I don't know what to do. So there's also the trauma responses that I've noticed that are kicking up in people as well in regards to sexual energy, and like, okay, what do we do with this? I don't want to touch it, but at some point you got to go there. So it is, our sexual energy is so powerful, and once we truly connect with it and meet it, it is the most profound thing. And even looking at our shadows as well, that death, it's an ego death that happens because how we used to show up just no longer serves, and we're recognizing like, oh, well, that means my relationship's going to change, maybe it means my job's going to change, maybe it means my path is going to change, and my friendships as well, because and it does, it's happened to me personally big time.
Yeah, as you step into your sexual power. I shared this in our first recording that my last long-term relationship basically ended during sex. There was an energy of like this shit doesn't match anymore, does it? Like it was like mid-sex, and we just kind of looked at each other, and it was like, yeah, there's a big mismatch. And it was actually like in sex that we ended up having a conversation that then led to the ending of the relationship in December 2019, like right before everything kicked off with COVID. And so again, it was like that sexual energy, that sexual portal being so loud as I was stepping into my gifts, my talents, all the things, and then noticing how it showed up within the bedroom was really, really, really potent. So yeah, I know what you're talking about personally.
That
when
is
you're
so true,
sharing
because
this
I
stuff.
do remember that. And I remember you right after that. I remember you after that, you totally took off. Like your business just like boomed, like everything just all through the power of sex. You know? But yeah,
Yeah. And
our sexual energy really connects us to our truth, Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just thinking on the flip side of that is like the abuse and the manipulation of sexual energy, and how it can be used as a power game, or used to distort, or used to kind of create stories or have authority. It's like, again, it's that like fine balance between using something for good or to better yourself or your relationship, whether it's you doing it, being in that sexual energy, pleasuring yourself on your own, or doing it with a partner, but how that then can be abused and manipulated in so many different ways. And I guess not just in relationships as well, like that sexual energy that runs through workplaces, that runs through friendships, that runs through like random people that you meet in the street that decide to, you know, start up some sexual conversation. Like, I don't know, like there's so many different ways. How does that are you, how do you manage that? Like, how does the sexual shadow, how do you process, I mean, it's such a big question. How do you process the sexual shadow, Val?
Boundaries is very important. That's what I gotta say. And you
Yes.
know, here's the thing, like what I've noticed, like the more I started to step into my sexual power, you know, sexual power to me, the way that I define it is like embodying your sexual truth, like the truth of who you really are. Anyone around you, whether it's at work, whether it's your clients, whether it's your friends or even family, you're shifting in vibration, right? And you're literally like mirroring back, you know, that frequency of truth, you know, sexual truth. And for someone who, you know, you're always connecting with, whether it's through work, friendship, and whatnot, if they've always been used to seeing you in a certain way, they might feel threatened by you. They might want to try to manipulate or control, copy, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And there's different, because it's like there's a certain level of being triggered, right? And so it's really important as you're shifting and you're witnessing that to still stay in your power, but this is where the boundaries need to happen, and this is where the voice needs to come in as well, right? Like our vocal cords, like our voice is, for women, it's very similar to our vagina. And so speaking our truth is very much connected to our vagina, to our
Yeah.
genitals. It's really
Wow.
important. And like for myself personally, I've noticed like I never used to express my needs or my boundaries. I used to be very, in a way, passive about communicating and almost passive aggressive. And I was like, shit, Val, like, what are you doing? You know, I had to call myself out on it. And so it's just like you're going to notice your voice being really activated, and communicating and being able to communicate your boundaries is very important. And then also, yeah, like looking at how, like the people around you, like how do you want to show up? Who do you want to hang out with to really allow yourself to be supported, but also be with those that are vibrating at that same level, right? And compassion is needed at the same time, because everyone's readiness to shift may not be there at that time, and that's okay. So it can be very challenging if you don't have tools of like how to navigate, because the more you embody even that sexual energy, you become even more aware of energy as well. But there's also this harnessing, I find when you really harness your sexual energy, the boundaries just naturally happen. They're just present because you're just in your body. So it's hard for, you know, a lot of things to happen, to interfere. Yeah.
Yeah, another particular practices, I'm just, as I'm thinking about it, like as you say, the connection between vagina and voice. Is there a connection between whether you're silent in the bedroom or that you don't naturally voice orgasms, or whether something feels good, or will you touch me here, or even if you're on your own and you're pleasuring yourself but you're doing it like in silence? Is there a connection
Yeah.
between, is there a connection between that?
100%. 100%. There's this thing around being able to communicate, because what happens if you're silent in the bedroom as well and you're not communicating, then you have like a deep question to ask yourself of like, and also check in, like, am I in a fight or flight response, right? Am I fawning where I don't want to like say anything because I don't want to offend my partner, right? there's many misconceptions that we have as to why we don't want to voice what we need, what we want, what we desire, and also not knowing how to communicate, right? Like for some people, they're just like, stop that, and then your partner just shuts down. But we have this thing called the nonviolent communication that I learned through authentic tantra, where there's a way of communicating in a loving, compassionate way of like, hey, can you slow down? I really love it when it's like nice and slow, and then your partner's like, oh, okay, like it's different in energy. Yeah. And so when you're connecting more with your sexual energy, it's just naturally that you learn how to communicate in a way that's compassionate as well and empowering, not only just for yourself but for your partner. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's super, super powerful to be able to have that, change the way we communicate and see that connection between voice and how it's that embodiment of that. And I think, yeah, and it's just something you're not taught. It's not like you're taught in schools. Like schools are just like, okay, here are the basic parts. If your parents haven't told you what the birds and the bees are about, it's suddenly like you're thrust into literally whatever your first intimate relationship is, and whether you're then taking on, their already sexual baggage or their sexual, ancestry or their beliefs and viewpoints, and it's a bit of a melting pot when you think about it energetically.
Yeah, it totally is. It totally is. Just thinking about the first experience, and then you're
That's
like
what I was
mixing
thinking
yours.
about too.
Yeah. The imprinting, yeah. Yes. And it's fascinating because I feel like now more and more like parents are consciously like doing the inner work to really connect to their sexual energy and in other areas as well, to support their children moving forward. Whereas I feel like in our generation, growing up, like it was the same thing. Like the talk that I got in sex education was like, here's a pad, here's a condom, don't get pregnant. That was it. I didn't really have much. And of course, when I did get my period, I wore the pad the wrong way. Like I did, and it hurt. So like it was pretty horrible. I had a horrific time, but I had to do a lot of healing around that. But yeah, it's also the death of again, going back to the misconceptions of what we've made our reproductive organs mean, right? And how powerful it is, and we've come into this plane, like this earth plane, to have this gift. So how do we utilize this, right? And so if a parent is very shameful to talk about it, you're getting into your teenage age and you don't have anything around you, the thing that happens is that the teenager is going to go to social media to learn, right? And so around that, there could be a lot of misconceptions through social media and the programming, and then taking that on. So it's this. It can get really murky, I want to say, around sexual energy, and then when it comes to connecting with other people, it's like a social skill. We have to learn that. So how do we learn that? How do we cultivate that, right? When we don't know what to do with it.
Social skill. Yeah, I'd never seen it.
Yeah.
It makes complete sense on this deeper understanding of how we show up with, again, as you say, expressing our needs, knowing what pleasure is important to us, and then, as you said, to kick us off, and then the connection to soul purpose and gifts, and breaking through ancestral shame, and this is just such a massive, it's a massive topic. Let's be real here. This is not small work. Like, this is big death and endings when people step in to work with you and look at this work. Like, there's a real deep, deep soul transformation that goes down. If there's someone that's listening to this and they're like, okay, great, how do I, if you were going to give me like a simple way in to connect to this sexual energy, something like a place to start, because it can feel so big and so overwhelming, what would you recommend to someone? Obviously working with someone like you, but if there's something that they can
No, great question. Yeah, I would highly recommend to do some form of somatic practice, because somatics involve breath, touch, and awareness. And the reason being is, if you, and again, working with the professional is highly recommended, because there's a lot of people that do quote unquote tantra work that's not tantra, or sexual healing work that can be very violating as well, and can re-trigger and re-traumatize someone. So working with the professional that you intuitively know will support you. And if you're not ready to work with someone, then on solo, just like breathing, like doing breath work, right? And just taking really deep, big breaths. And what I would do is put one hand on the heart and one hand on the genitals, and just connecting and seeing where your energy goes. Like, do you feel like, and put a timer on for like 5 minutes doing that, and notice if you are leaving your body, if you're looking at your phone and being like, are we done yet? Because that's a part of you that's checking out, that's disconnecting. And so the first step is just bringing awareness to your genitals. And you don't have to even necessarily touch it right away, because for some people, if they've gone through certain trauma, it might be too much for them to even like want to touch it at the moment, or even look at it. So doing the breath work where you can just connect with one hand on the heart and then one hand just even the pelvic area, and bridging the connection from your heart to your genitals and tuning in is the first step, because then you'll know what your sexual energy needs, like what you actually need, what you desire. Maybe you need a bath, maybe you feel like you need to cry, and maybe you feel like you want to journal as well. You're going to notice maybe flashes of memories come up. It was so funny. It might be a little too TMI, but whatever. I did a tantric masturbation session last night, and it was like a death and rebirth. And I had a flash of, and I cried at the end, because I had a big release of like, oh, I'm like, what is this? And it was literally a memory from like 2020 of like when the pandemic started. And I was like, I remember like the time of like where I was at in June in 2020, and it was literally, I got a flashback of the exact time and the exact date of what I was feeling internally. And I was like, whoa, this was pent up inside of me. Like there was some grief there. And I was like, wow, like I let myself have that moment to grieve, to let go, and to create space. And that's the thing, is like when we give ourselves permission to heal our sexual energy, to even be able to experience the orgasm when you're ready to do so, there is like a death and rebirth that happens, because that energy just like surges through all the channels of your body, and you're creating space and a new excuse me, like a new level of awareness in your body, in your presence. So yeah,
that's massive. Thank you for sharing and being so intimate with us, because that's like, that shows, because again, it's that like, oh, there's grief that's stored in this way that needs to be released through pleasure. Like releasing grief through pleasure seems counterintuitive, but actually when you think about it, it's like, oh, well, of course that makes sense. And if you're grieving and the energy is stuck, and the grief energy has to go somewhere from a particular moment, as you say, of and bringing it through the body in that way is like deeply potent and powerful. Do you find when people come to you that there is so much pressure on the death, on the orgasm, like le petit mot, like the orgasm being the ending. Is there a lot of, that, oh well, I know for a fact there is a lot of pressure on the ending. I remember being, going back into, first sexual experiences.
I think you broke out here, so I'm going to wait till you come back.
Oh, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Are you there? Oh, you're there.
Okay, there we are.
There we are. Hi.
Okay. I heard part of your question. Can you repeat that again?
Yeah. The question was, what was the question? The question was, can you remember bits of it? And then I'll.
Yeah, I'm trying to go back to it because it started to channel through, and I was like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah.
Let me try to go back to
it. The question was, what were we talking about? We were talking about.
You just said le petit mot.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I was saying, are you finding that people are so focused on the orgasm, like on the ending, on le petit mot, because there is this pressure, again, talking about when you're having sex for the first time, that there has to be some orgasm, that there has to be there has to be something like that. Are you finding that yourself, that people are so coming to you because they can't orgasm, or they're not getting the orgasm that they want, and there is this focus on the ending?
Yeah, like a lot of people are focused on, I call it like the magic bullet, right? And it's like just a quick little climax. And what they're really wanting is to experience like a big orgasmic, expansive pleasurable experience. They really want to enhance it. For some clients, like they have troubles having an orgasm, and sometimes there's pressure to have it, which makes it even worse. The same goes for men. Like if you feel like there's a pressure to have an orgasm, and that's what causes like erectile challenges. And so once they come to me, they don't even realize, like they know they need support, but I work with them on a very deep soul level. And then I connect the dots of how they're showing up in the bedroom and how that relates to their past, and how they were raised by their parents. I'll just be shown like intuitively how that connects to a sort of programming when they were bullied, and how they show up and why they can't achieve an orgasm. So what we really focus on is expanding their pleasure capacity, because what were we taught about pleasure, right? Many of us have been taught to minimize it, or not really receive it at all, or not really know what it is, or maybe pleasure is dirty, or there's this misconception around pleasure. So when we disconnect from receiving pleasure, then we go for the quick fix, right? And that quick fix can be like quickly masturbating, right? Like just quickly doing the clitoral masturbation with a toy, or it could be someone like going to porn and just like being very addicted to porn. But the thing is once you actually take the time to not actually focus on the orgasm, but focus on the pleasure and de-armoring your genitals, because like you're going to notice like there's going to be certain areas, like whether for females, like around the vulva or inside the vagina, that there may be numbness or pain. There might be some irritation as well. So instead of overriding that and just focusing on like what works for you, how do we connect to those areas that actually need tending to, and what's the programming underneath that, right? Those are the things that we are holding on to that we are not ready to let go of. But once we really meet those areas and let go of that, that's when the death happens. But the death is very empowering. Sometimes how we, especially in the Western world, we see death as, the most traumatizing thing, right? But death is actually, it can be very beautiful and empowering. And we're always dying, always, every day. When we wake up, right? When we go to bed. So we're always evolving. We are always dying. And then when we go through this big death of our own sexual identity, when I mean sexual identity, I mean how we show up in the world, right? How do we embody ourselves in this world? And how do we use our sexual energy?
Yeah. And it's interesting because as you're talking, I'm like, oh yeah, it makes sense that we have a fear. For many, there's like a fear of the orgasm, a fear of the ending, and then the connection between the fear of death and the fear of things coming to an end. And again, this like interesting energy connection loop between both of them. Like that's really, like you wouldn't, it's really deep. Like, and you wouldn't necessarily put the connection
Together.
of like a fear of dying and the connection to like a fear of climax is in the same energetic boat, but it kind of is.
Yeah, because sex is like very healing. It's like a lot of times when people resist to being intimate with themselves or with their partner, we have a window washer, by the way.
We'll just wait. I love us. I love us. I love us.
I don't know if you hear the clacking,
I do.
but
Yeah, we'll just wait.
wait, okay.
We'll just let it run.
He's now at the middle window.
Oh man, that's so funny. We're literally getting like, you're getting like visibly shown to the world. It's like we're having this conversation.
Let me clean the windows, make it more clear.
We're all having a bit of a clean out. I mean, like, you can come clean my pipes out if you want.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, gross. Gross comment. Gross. Old conditioning, but God.
No, I say the same thing. I need to get my pipes cleaned.
I need to get my pipes cleaned. Oh, maybe we should keep that in the podcast.
Yeah. You totally.
Oh dear, that's genius.
Okay, he's on the left side of the window.
Oh man.
Okay, we're gonna.
Away. It just, and do you know what the funny thing is the noise of it sounds like someone's having sex. Like it literally sounds like someone's like
it's literally cleansing and it's like squirting water out of the thing. It totally is. And it's just like he's down there, but he's got this long thing, and he's
got a long pole.
Yeah. And he's just squirting. Okay.
He's squirting. Using all the words.
Just totally use that, like just little
the
intro. You're like, what? Okay.
Oh, I love you.
Okay, we're back. Okay, so back to sexual energy and healing and death. I was going to say that when we experience an orgasm, it is like this brush of like enlightenment that we actually go through, like this experience. So we do release stuff that doesn't serve. So for people that are avoiding to be intimate with themselves, avoiding to be intimate with their partner, and going like super deep, there is this fear of just surrendering, and just like letting go, because not having control, right? Like not actually fully surrendering. And that's why, like with the genitals, sometimes there can be pain, especially in women if they're not ready, if they are going deep with someone and they're not really allowing themselves to surrender. And there could be, obviously there's lots of programming around that, right? There could be some trauma there and whatnot. But once they de-armor, they're able to surrender even more because they actually feel safe in their body. They feel safe to be seen. And the same go with men too, right? If they're able to really go deep in with someone and allow themselves to be seen, it says a lot. So yeah, there's so much depth in healing sexual energy, and that depth, the depth is required, right?
Yeah.
It's an over, yeah.
Yeah, and also the sexual energy changing as you move into perimenopause and menopause, of the connection of the death of fertility that's connected to the sexual energy, and then navigating sex and intimacy during those phases as the body is changing is also like really massive and important.
Yeah, 100%. I'm glad you brought that forward because I've noticed, like, I'm in my 40s, so I'm in that, what they would call perimenopausal phase. But I I remember, like, I had a couple of hot flashes, like, in January, and I was like, oh my God, like, I thought I turned on the heat too high. Like, I literally did, until like the third time it happened, and it was really brutal. And then I was like, oh, and then, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to go on hormone replacement therapy because I see this as like a very energetic process and transitioning. And like, what is my body trying to tell me? And as I went deeper, I was like, oh, it's like I'm stepping into the wise women. And basically, in this transition, there's so much old programming, transgenerational programming. For me personally, I could feel from my mom's side and my mom's side. And I started to feel the programming of what my mom went through when she was in perimenopausal phase and menopause. And then I went back to the age that I was at when she was going through that phase, and how much I took on from my mom and her imprinting of what it meant to be going through that phase. And I remember those were her hardest times, like hard times. And that's when she was the most brutal with me. And then I started to really connect to those pieces and be like, wow, I've done so much healing around my existence with my mom. But what I didn't think about was this piece around what did she go through when she was at that age of perimenopausal and menopausal, and how did that impact her, and what did I take on, like what's the belief system. So I've just been rewiring my genitals and doing more pelvic floor exercises as well, and working with the jade egg, and really connecting with it even more so, because I feel like that transition is like deeper wisdom that actually wants to come through, and you're going through this massive, I want to say, purification. And so you're going to get guided. Well, I know for myself, I got guided to eat differently. Like, I don't drink a lot of coffee anymore.
Wow.
I found a
And for
homeopath.
Val to say that,
I'm a coffee drinker.
She's
Yeah.
a coffee drinker.
I was like 3 cups a day, 2 cups. I was like, I need my coffee. I literally, like, I have now like the dandy blend, right? So I use the, and that I can't actually have coffee because now I feel different. And now I'm going back, which is funny, to like my roots of drinking tea, like drinking chai. So I was like, wow, like this is so fascinating. So you're going to notice that you're going to go back to your ancestral roots too as you're healing your sexual energy. Because there's things that we pick up through society, and then we just operate on that way. But really, like, our genitals are basically calling us back home. Really.
Yeah, right. Isn't
Yeah.
it the birth portal?
Yeah.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, and so fascinating that you're seeing that return on an ancestral level. And thank you for sharing the advice for anyone that is experiencing perimenopause or going through menopause, and knowing that, yeah, sexual energy is gonna shift and change. I went to a talk a couple of weeks ago And there was a woman they were talking about perimenopause and menopause, and one of the women who's written a book about it was saying, like Lorraine Candy, they were saying that how women then become more sexually active because there isn't the fear of getting pregnant. And so actually there is this massive surge of like sexual energy where they're like, right. And it's like, it can actually like get, it's like being in your teens again, back in your 40s and 50s, because suddenly there's just this big surge of energy that is connected to it in some way once if you're managing all the other side effects that come with it.
Yeah, 100%. And like for everyone, it's different. And like I also um, want to add that some women may believe that they're just going to be dried out and that they'll never like have a libido. And I feel like that's like the biggest misconception. Um, you know, being in your 40s and even in the 50s as well, I feel like is such a profound time, and very like you're really, I call it like stepping into the wise women. Like there's just like this deep wisdom that is wanting to come through, and this deeper form of like liberation as well. And so with this purification that happens, and if we're able to like really listen to our body and be like, okay, well, what do I need, and how can I really tend to my genitals without just 100% deferring it to pharmaceuticals, right? Like actually like coming back home, what does this mean for me as I transition? And then from there, like you'll notice that you remain lubricated, if not even more lubricated. You will become more aware of the different kind of orgasms that you can have and the different kinds of ejaculations that can happen as well in your body. So it's such a profound time, I feel, going through this phase. But I love how she said that too, like that she stopped. She's like, woo!
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
basically it was two women, and I can't remember the other woman, and she's basically written a book about her life and her change, and also how her friends became really sexually promiscuous off the back of it as well, and it was really it was really fascinating.
Well, shit, girl.
It was basically like, don't write off your sex life when you're in your 40s and 50s, because it's going to be fucking awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And I do find like being in the 40s, I don't know, it just feels better to connect sexually. Like it's just, as we age, like there's this deeper level of wisdom that I did not have when I was in my 30s for sure.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you on that massively.
Yeah.
I've been asking all of my guests, everyone that's come on the show, and it's quite a big topic, and a big question, so take a moment to think about it before everyone else is like, oh my god, man, that's a rather big question. When you're passing over to the other side, when you're in that like liminal moment of leaving your body, leaving that sexual energy behind, what do you hope and think and desire to be thinking about, feeling about, memories, like that somatic experience that we kind of envision, or it gets shown to us in in culture that will happen? What do you think or hope that you'll experience in that moment?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really hope that, all the work that I've done internally and, kind of like the legacy that I'm leaving is that it creates a ripple effect for those around me, whether it's family, friends, their children, and beyond. Learn to be empowered with their sexual energy and really see it as a sacred gift, and to restore it as well. And as a result of that, like the byproduct that I would love to see is that we're just, that people are just living in a world where they really are expressing their gifts versus just like, being slaves. and in a way that's how I define it as world peace. I really believe, like, again, I feel like healing our sexual energy is what's actually going to heal the planet for sure.
Yeah, it's massive. Thank you for sharing.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
such an awesome conversation and sharing your wisdom. Like, this has been so deep. If people want to find more about your work, what you're up to, she's also an awesome DJ, everyone, and she created the trailer music for this show. So, like, she is, you know, properly embracing her sexual creative energy, and it's flooding in other ways. So yeah, how can people find you, find your DJ work, how and how to work with you?
Yeah, you can find me on my Instagram at I am Baljit Rayat, or you can find me on my website at baljitrayat.com. And then on my website, there will be a link to my music, so to my SoundCloud and my track that I created called Destiny. But yeah, there'll be more tracks, and I've got conscious calibrated music DJ sets that are on my SoundCloud. If you feel like you need something to boost your energy and cultivate that sexual energy as well for your ideas and need inspiration. I get a lot of people that say that they play a DJ set and that just like made their day. It just like shifted their energy and they were able to kind of create. So you can definitely check that out on my website.
Amazing. Her music is so good. I love her DJ sets. So
Thank
go
you.
and check them out. You can find me regularly dancing around my house in my bedroom to her DJ sets. Thanks, sweetie. Thank you for such an awesome, awesome conversation.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm so grateful. Thank you, love.